with it, man. I'm not even gonna mess with it. I'm so sorry about that. I accidentally, I accidentally pressed the button. Okay, so let me just go back now. Let's do a quick little recap. So we're talking about the void. We're talking about this energy that this energy that we don't see. This energy that we don't see. The unseen. Okay. So this unseen energy. Okay. This unseen energy. This Tao. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hung up. I made a mistake. Next time I'm going to use my computer so I can interact a little bit better. But we're talking about this energy, right? You know, it's something that's interesting. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but your spirit, your soul that animates this body, it actually has a weight to it. It has a weight that scientists actually weighed a spirit. And how do you weigh a spirit? Well, they weighed the body, right? When the person was about to die, and they've done this a couple times. And then when the person actually dies, they notice that the weight decreases. And by how much it decreases, then they subtract it, and that tells the weight of the soul, the spirit. So a lot of people really don't notice, but your spirit does have weight to it, a mass to it, which is quite interesting. Because a lot of times we think things that are unseen, that are invisible, that they don't have any weight to it whatsoever, but they do have a weight to it. Okay, so I want to point that out. Okay, I want to point that out, and they actually did an experiment. Okay, and this is going to lead me into what I really want to talk about. This took place in the early 1800s, I believe. I mean, the late 1800s, the early 1900s, and I got this from a scientist. The name of the book is called Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. So this was during a time when there was some type of plague going on. I'm not sure what plague it was at that time, but it was pretty deadly. And there were people that were dying, obviously, if it was deadly. And the scientists ended up building this machine. Now, the material that they used to build this machine was asbestos. Okay, right now asbestos is being taken out because they found out that it causes lung problems, lung cancer. So it was asbestos. It was also, what was the other one? It was also lead, and it was also asbestos, lead, and the other one was aluminum. Aluminum, lead, and asbestos. And the way that they made this machine is very simple technology, very simple. So that's why let me finish this. So it was pretty much like a cone shape. Okay. Now notice that sacred geometry shape, the cone shape, almost like a pyramid, almost like a TP, where you got the top, right, and then you got it coming down and wow. Very important to remember the materials that it was made from. They brought the people in there, and when the people, because they were just about almost dying, okay, and when they actually went through the process, which is called death, which is when the soul leaves the body, okay, because of the material that the machine was constructed from, okay. Maybe I need to make a video about this and actually put some graphic into it. But anyway, because of the machine, because of the material that it was constructed from, okay, the aluminum, the lead, and the asbestos, the soul, once it left the body, it couldn't pass through the material. It could not pass through the material. That's very important to remember. Asbestos, lead, and aluminum, the spirit, the soul, right? And they actually weighed it. They weighed it. It could not pass through the material. Now, I'm going to stop right there because I talked about the 7 things, right? 7 circles. I talked about the 7 base metals in alchemy. And those base metals being lead, tin, iron, copper, mercury, and silver. Okay, and gold, and gold. Sorry. So I have some of them here, but I want to stop there because of that story. So this is interesting, right? This is aluminum. Okay, regular aluminum foil, and people don't notice about metals, right? I have aluminum, pure aluminum, by the way. Okay, I have pure gold right here. Let me right here, pure gold. Okay, I have pure silver. Okay, I have pure copper. All right, now why am I showing you these metals? I'm showing you these metals because these metals have an energetic property. They have an energetic property, right? Which is the reason why we use copper for copper wires, which is the reason why we need certain metals for certain technologies. And metals, okay? Metals are also, what are metals that a lot of people I don't think know? Because why do I say I don't think they know it? Because they don't talk about it often. It's not in the mass consciousness. We talk about crystals, right? It's the famous one, the amethyst. Okay, a lot of people have that. You know, the geos, they look kind of crusty on the outside and really pretty on the inside. Here's another geo, right? Crusty on the outside, pretty on the inside. Okay. So, a lot of people don't know that metals, silver, right? Metals are actually crystals. This right here, and I'm just gonna tie into about what I just told you, but this right here is a ore of gold. This came from Colorado, okay? From a gold place where they have gold in the mountain. And it's like you could take like a class trip there, you know, one of those places to explore or whatever, right? See those little specks of gold? Let me bring this a little bit closer so you guys can see. All those little specks, those are gold. Those are gold. And it's a process to extract the gold, okay? But that's actually a crystal. And they actually go through a process and then you get this, right? This comes from this right here. And you can also see that there's some quartz inside of there too. All these little things right here, those are all little specks of gold. Okay, so we have many books nowadays that can tell you that, oh, amethyst will have the property of, you know, somebody maybe who are addicted to drugs or substances, or maybe somebody who wants to increase their spiritual awareness, or maybe something like quartz, right? You can program quartz, and we do. We have the quartz watch, we have quartz in computers. There's many things that quartz crystals is used for. Well, metals, again, have properties as well too. Now, it's interesting because I talked about the 7 base metals. Well, this machine that I was talking about, aluminum, okay? And I can get really deep into it, but I'm just going to give a really, really quick thing about it. Aluminum, okay? Aluminum. The machine was made out of aluminum, lead, and asbestos. Aluminum keeps things out. It keeps things out. What do I mean by things? It keeps frequencies out. It keeps frequencies out. That's one of the strong properties of aluminum. It keeps frequencies out. Okay? But lead keeps frequencies in, and it keeps frequencies out. Why do you think that when you go to get a x-ray, you know, whether it was in the dentist or some people in the hospital or whatever, they put that big jacket on you or some big lead type of thing, right? And when they are taking an x-ray, that way it can only take certain parts of the body, what parts they want it to take, and it won't affect other parts. It's keeping these frequencies out. It's keeping them out. Very, very important to remember. Okay, I'm gonna break some down. And then asbestos is like a mineral, a fibrous. How do I say it? It's like a fabric type of substance. So I'm not exactly sure how they constructed it, but I know it was made out of those three materials, and I know that it was made. I know that it was made in the shape of a cone. Okay, very important to remember. Think about the movie Ghostbusters, right? Remember Egon and I forget their names, man. It was a good movie. I have to watch it back in the days, but and then they would trap the ghosts in these traps, and then they would also put them in these cages, right? Like, we know this is just obviously what do you call it? It's obviously fiction, but I believe that there's some truth to that. Okay, what about things like X-Men? People who have psychic powers like Jean Grey or Professor X. Remember the Juggernaut? Remember Magneto? They would put that thing over their head because they didn't want nothing to get inside of their head. They didn't want no psychic abilities affecting them, controlling their minds, right? Because Professor X or Jean Grey might be like, do this, and then all of a sudden they might do it. So they wanted to protect themselves. What was the material? What was that made out of? What about all of these kings and queens, okay? Why did they always have helmets, right? Or not helmets, shells, crowns that are made from like gold. And what is so special about this, right? Why do people want this so much? We know that gold is a conductor meaning that it amplifies something. If you have a weak signal, gold can make it stronger, right? Think about like an antenna, right? I know back in the days people used to put foil on the antenna and try to, when they had the little black and white TVs that you click. I'm kind of revealing, yeah. I mean, a lot of people wrap their crystals in a big one, copper. It's a great conductor for electricity. Electricity moves through it without any resistance. It's not like, trying to get through it. It just flows like, droom, 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 droom. You know what I'm saying? And this is a conductor also too, aluminum. But it's not as a great conductor as this, or this. Okay? So, crystals, right? Why am I bringing this up? What's the whole point, Jonathan? The whole point is this right here. Is that you have these things inside of you. You have all of these trace metals inside of you. You have a lot of them. You have gold inside of you. You have copper inside of you. You need some of these trace metals. They call them trace. They're really, really little small bits and pieces, but we are more than we think we are. And before I actually go there, this came from back in the days, okay? And this is really interesting. It's called aluminum foil detector beanie, and it's called practical mind control protection for the paranoids, okay? This book was given to me a long time ago. I'm not going to say from who, but in San Francisco from a spy store. You could buy it like, I don't know, like they had a little spy store. You could put these glasses on and it records everything. You can have like a pen, and on the back of the pen was really like a recording device and things like that. Well, this was in there, okay? This was on there. And in this book, I really never read it through all the way, but it talked about making some type of a helmet. And it talked about the FBI probing into your mind, things like this, things like that, things like that. I don't like to consider myself a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I don't. But I do think that there is some truth in some of it. Okay. And that book, 1984 by George Orwell, what he talked about, the thought police, right? And a lot of days nowadays people are talking about some 5G or something like that. I have a video, I don't know if I erased it or not, but it's new technology that just came out this year, or could have been last year. It cost $400. They were advertising it for a YouTube commercial, and I recorded it, and I was going to put it on my channel. I haven't done it yet because I don't know how to spin it, but it's really interesting. And you put this device on your head, and you go to sleep, and the device can tell you what type of dreams you had, and can tell you if you're stressed out and what type of stress you have, and some other things as well too. And they would actually send you a report. They would send you some type of a report. So they can literally put something on your head, and they can tell you where your stress is coming from. They can tell you when your heart rate goes up. They can tell you all of this stuff. See, what I'm getting at is that these waves that we have, right? These waves that we have, these brain waves, the alpha, the delta, the beta, the gamma, and uh, delta. These waves are powerful. They're powerful, and we are powerful. Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond all measure. That we're more powerful than we ever thought. Just because we don't see these things, we think that, oh, maybe this is just TV. This is just X-Men. This is just whatever. But the universe is constantly showing you who you are. Constantly showing you who you are. Back in the days if you had a remote control, right? When TV first came out, you have some type of remote control that can control another device. Oh, you're getting burned, man. Right? All of a sudden, you're a witch or whatever. Nowadays we say, oh, it's just science, right? Trust the science, trust the science. What about the science of you? Do you know the science of you? These things that have been talked about in ancient texts for a long time. Long time they talk about. Long time. All these books, man. There's a lot of great wisdom in these books. So, with that being said, now let's dig in. So we talked about the unseen. This is the reason why I mentioned all this unseen stuff, because we're constantly controlling things. Have you ever got a phone call, or you want to maybe talk to somebody, so you're thinking of this person, I'm thinking of my mom, I'm thinking of my mom, and then all of a sudden that day or the very next day or something like that, your mom calls you, like you're telling your mom. Thoughts are real, man, and they control things. Everything that we see came from a thought. The different stages in your brain are really, really real. They're real. So don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget your own power. Okay? Now, I want to talk about evolution because, how I said, out of the void comes many, right? Well, let's talk about ether. Okay? Prana. What is this? What is the ether, the prana? What are the seven again, seven different pranas? You have prana, udana, I forget the names of all of them, but there are many different pranas, and it has to do with when you breathe in a certain type of way, and actually in different parts of your body. And we can demonstrate that on another video as well too. Just comment down below and I'll piece that together. Out of it, in the center of the four elements, there's this element that back in the days they would call it love, right? Remember, what was that cartoon? Captain Planet. Was it Captain Planet? Yeah, Captain Planet. Earth, wind, fire, water, love. And when they put all their rings together, and then they make I am Captain Planet, right? It was love. Okay, that was the fifth element. What about Bruce Willis? The fifth element. What is this fifth element? The fifth element, you can call it ether, you can call it prana, right? I call it prana. The same thing, okay? It's this element that we can't see with our eyes. Check out some of my videos and I demonstrate these Qigong masters, they're actually using prana to move things with air, like air, or they're actually using it to make fire, okay? This is what Avatar, The Last Airbender is about. There's a lot of truth in these things. A lot of truth in these things. So, check this out. Out of the void comes one, right? That's what we talked about in Taoism, right? What did Tesla say? The minute we begin to study the non-physical, right? All of these things, right? The measurement of the soul and everything else, right? That I was talking about. Well, check this out. In the center of these five, they call it the five platonic solids. You have the earth, the water, the fire, the air, and then the ether. In the middle of them, of the fire, the air, the water, and the earth, is ether or prana. That's what it is. And out of that comes these elements. And this was the first stage of evolution. The elements, the elemental forces that are on this planet, getting it ready, getting things ready. There's so many videos I want to put out. I have some really good information about how our solar system was composed and some of the history of it, and how planets are actually made, and what that evolutionary process is. Just to say a little bit, all planets in this solar system, they come from the sun. The sun is actually birthing the planets. All right. So think about this. People say, "Oh, that planet's in the gassy stage. That planet was all just lava and this and that, whatever." All of the minerals came from that. Okay, all of the minerals came from that. Think about when there are volcanoes. It's hot fire, right? And then all of a sudden, what do you get from that? You get a lot. You get things like bang, right? They say after millions of years, right? You get things like this, right? You get things like maybe things like this. It's the geo, right? That likes bright, man. Well, that's a good picture. Okay, there you go. You get you get many different minerals that come up, right? You get you get a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. You know, you get fresh new dirt. Think about this. You're getting soil. You're getting soil, right? You're getting a lot of stuff, man, from these elementals. And when they combine and do certain things, it's constantly coming together, shaping a new territory, a new, I won't say territory, a new piece of land. And it's amazing. And it's amazing. And out of that comes these minerals. Out of that comes these minerals. Okay, and what are all of the minerals? We know a lot of the minerals already. We know the calciums. We know the different types of salts. We know which is sodium and chloride, right? As they call it, sodium chloride, the scientific name. There's there's so many things, right? The hydrogens and the gases and everything else, right? All of the minerals, okay? And then what's the next stage of evolution? Because you can have something like this. It's like a rock, right? I use this for like massaging or different acupuncture or acupressure points. What is the next stage of a rock? Rocks are actually evolution, and the stage is this. A crystal is the highest evolution of the mineral kingdom. A crystal, right? A crystal. This is citrine. You ever seen a piece of citrine like that? A lot of people think that this is citrine. Okay. But this is actually amethyst that has been burned. This is amethyst. This is actually amethyst that has been burned. Real citrine is like this. Okay. Notice the sacred geometry on the back of there. Okay. So you start off with the elementals. Then from the elementals, they produce the minerals. They produce the minerals. That's what comes next, the minerals. All these different types of minerals. And out of the minerals, what comes next? You guessed it. The plants. The plants actually come next. And you can actually really see this. If you actually pay close enough attention and are sensitive enough, you can actually notice how the minerals come and form into plants. And some of them you can even catch in the earlier stages that will really show that. Okay? What about insects? Insects is the next evolution after plants. You might think that that's a far-fetched, but that's when plants actually start to become more animated. More animated. Think about the leaf insect, how it looks. Think about the stick insect. Think about a lot of these insects that look almost just like plants. Think about plants when they have these so-called carnivorous plants. How they're moving. Think about the plant that actually lights up like a lightning bug, and it's made. They call it bioluminescence. It's made from the what's used to make it light up is exactly from what a lightning bug has. So a lot of these plants, not a lot of these plants, insects is the next evolution. And then after insects, we have animals. Animals is next, okay? And animals is the next step of evolution that, and let me backtrack a little bit. If you actually look at your body, right? If you look at your body, so we said the elementals, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, and the ether. If you look at your body, you have all of these elements in your body. If you dig deep into yoga will show you that. And I don't remember the ratio, but I think the biggest ratio was water, I think you have something like 70% water in your body, and then don't quote me on the ratios, but water, and you had I think it was 5% fire, which they call Agni, it's your internal fire. You had a certain amount of air. I forget what it was, maybe 20%, and then it was ether, and then it was earth. Think about how your body is, and think about this also as well too. Okay, and I'm gonna get those facts straight, but I know for a fact that we have all these elements. But think about your bones. Think about your bones, and a lot of people like to equate bones with calcium. But think about your bones and all of those elements. You're made from. That's like the foundation, the skeleton system, right? And why does it go in that order? It's a replica of the order of evolution, from elements to minerals, right? Your bones, and then after that, the plants, your blood. Isn't it really interesting that the molecule of what is it called? I forget the name. Your blood, when your blood is man. Well, I can't remember the name right now. But blood and plants, right? The chlorophyll in plants, very, 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 almost exact the same molecule. The only difference is that plants go off of magnesium, whereas blood needs iron. That's the only difference. That's how closely related they are to them. And then animals, think about if you know a lady by the name of Dr. Jude Prukram, she's an actual world doctor, and she has so many titles and hats. She talked about the seven, that's that number again, the seven circuits of the brains that we have. And she talked about the reptilian brain. And we know what the reptilians are about when you're like a reptilian brain. They don't really congregate together, but they go off of, I think it's called the 4 F's or the 5 F's. So it's the feed, fornicate, fight, feed, fornicate, fight, and flee. Feed, fornicate, fight, and flee. I think those were the 4 F's of the reptilians. That's pretty much what you see them doing. They're not like, like birds or whatever, and being creative, building nests or dancing, or things like that. And then you have, other circuits inside of these brains, okay, that exhibit other species of animal amoeba that we are familiar with on this planet, from insects to the way that they click together as a unit, and that's like the ant, and she talked about how the ant is very similar to the army, right? Or like a church or something like that, that you almost put your life up for the whole entire thing. Like the whole group is more important than the individual. The whole group is more important than the individual, and that's the mentality. And they talked about birds and so on and so forth. But then after animals, okay, and we know like things like chimpanzees, that they're closely related. I mean, I think the numbers are like, I think it's like a 99%. The only thing that really separates is the circuit. I mean, with that being said, it's like if things are constantly evolving, if plants go through 7 phases of evolution, from the stem to the leaf to the bud to whatever, and then the final expression is the fruit, right after the flower, which is the actual seed. The seed is the fruit of a plant, whether you know it or not. It's like watermelon. There's all these seeds in it, or whatever, coriander, right? That's from the cilantro plant, so on and so forth. When we take that into consideration, here we are as humans, right? As we call ourselves, okay? I don't really know where that name came from, but hue meaning, I guess, light, and then man. We are full of light. When you take that into consideration, everything that we are, and everything that we accomplish so far, okay? Think about this. Where are we going right now? As humanity, of all of us, because I feel like now more than ever, especially since last year and now coming up from this year, I'm sure it's only going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. But where are we right now as a collective? I can almost feel everybody's thoughts. I can almost tune in, and the internet is just technology. Technology meaning something on the outside. Technology is just things on the outside. That's what technology is, right? But everything that's created is only an expression of us. With all of these things, we're always going to be the best technology. Okay, so with all of this being said, like where we are right now as humans, as spiritual beings, as really energetic, just forces, energy, souls, consciousness, particles, God particles. With where we are right now in our evolution, with where we are, I feel it within every fiber of my being. I really, really do feel it that we are on the threshold of a brand new discovery about ourselves, and that we're actually about to take this thing to the next level. That from elemental to mineral to plant to insect to animal to human to actual God realization. And that word, when I throw it around, it makes a lot of people maybe feel funny, I think. I feel like that because it has so many different definitions and people have used it in many ways that are ungodly, and just has a lot of meanings to it. But when I say God, I'm talking about this force that permeates all things, that created all things, that is all things. There's the creator of all things. Okay, so pure love, pure unconditional love. That's what I'm talking about, and I'm not looking at it as a authority figure. If you look at Christianity, Christianity tends to look at God almost as an authority figure. In some of the old Christianity, my God is a jealous God, right? These are things that we heard. Let me sacrifice for God, right? Let me sacrifice my children or sacrifice a lamb, just the things, judgment, God's going to judge me. These are human characteristics. And that's what I don't vibe with this Christianity thought form, or even any religion that exhibits that. When you look at something like Taoism or Buddhism, it's more of like a universal God, like a universal force, a universal energy that is all around, and it doesn't have a specific form, and it doesn't exhibit characteristics of a human that may be jealous or whatever. And it's just important for me to elaborate on what I mean when I say God. Okay, but the videos that I put out of other people, and I really wanted people to see this. The videos that I put out of other people who were able to, make fire from their hands, right? People who were able to move objects with their mind. If you follow me on TikTok, you see a lot of these as well too. People who can look at a picture and they can tell exactly who took that picture, what that person was thinking, what are some things that person might be wanting to achieve on this planet, just to know everything about that person. There's so many stories that I could tell you and phenomenal things, and I've even had spiritual experiences, myself. But why don't the masses of people have these experiences? Why don't we actualize our godness inside of us? Well, it's interesting because I used to have a plant, and it was a succulent plant, and I might have told the story before, but the plant wasn't doing too good. It was actually almost dead, and you can see the life force seeping out from it slowly but surely. And I was like, oh man, my plant's gonna die. This was like maybe 8 years ago. I took the plant and I put the plant outside. And a week later, I noticed that the life force started coming back, and there was additional parts growing on the plant. Even though there was sunlight in the room that I had at the time, and it was actually a really, really like cool environment, it wasn't cool enough for the plant. And that's when I realized that the environment determines everything. Environment determines everything. When I lived in the woods for 2 months, and when I got changed after being there for a month, I literally got acclimated and calibrated to become my original self that I was always supposed to be. I didn't have any thoughts inside of my mind. My hunger totally went away. I had no addictions whatsoever. My hormones, should I say, were completely stable. Everything was so good, right? Because the environment dictated that. So when I bring up the question of why aren't we experiencing these things that we're supposed to experience, that we were meant to experience, these God beings that we are, how come we don't experience this? What is holding us back? And I believe that it's the environment. I believe that it's the lifestyle, and it's hard to when you wake up and you got the TV, you got the foods, you got so many things that dictate, or that affect, should I say, that affect your life. It's really really hard, and that's why, again, going back to yogis, after a certain amount of training, they will put them out there in the wilderness, and they would have to, go through that initiation because you need that. I used to have I'll tell you two stories. I had a hamster, and the hamsters, I forget what we named it, Mad Face and Sticky Fingers, something like that. This was back in the Poconos, and the hamsters escaped out of the cage, and they were slow. They were stuffed their mouth, and me and my brothers and sisters, and they escaped. And then we noticed something that we would be like, "Oh, there it is!" And we try to get it, and they got fast. They got really, really fast, and they started doing things like hopping and climbing that we never seen before. And it was almost like they were a wild animal. The environment changed. They were able to exhibit more of who they were because of the environment changed. I had an iguana named Lafayette. The iguana escaped out of my cage. We lived in the Poconos, again, and we had like 7 acres of land on our property. And the iguana escaped at the beginning of the summer. And I was looking for it, always looking around because I would carry it on my shoulder. But sometimes it would run away. And I was always looking around, looking around. And one time I looked up in a tree and I seen it. And man, it would just run. It got really, really fast. Finally, I caught it, just to say I climbed all the way up the tree and it couldn't go anywhere else. But it turned pretty much into a wild lizard. And what I'm saying is that the environment dictated it, who it was going to be. So when we put ourselves in an environment where it's comfortable, I always say that when you're comfortable, it's hard to grow. And even for myself, like right now, like I'm going through a lot right now. I'm going through a lot. I find myself really, really lazy. I find myself really, really lazy. But I used to be really energetic. I mean, I used to do 120 hours a week. I'll constantly be at the gym. I'll constantly be doing this. But recently, I've been really, really like lazy. For real, like just lying down all day, on my phone, eating something, reading the book, doing this. I haven't been keeping up with my yoga practice. I haven't been going out to the gym that I normally do. And now I'm getting back to walking and things like that. But I don't know what happened to me. But and I need to get back on the path. But I'm just going to be honest and vulnerable. Is that environments dictate a lot. When I put myself in the woods and there was no way that I could turn back. I already quit my job. I already gave up everything. My car, I already gave, everything away, all my personal belongings. There was no turning back. There was only forward. There was a sergeant or a general, and he talked about, burn the boats. They were on an island, and they had to take over the island. And instead of, it was only a small group of them. Instead of his team thinking like, oh, we can always leave, he burnt the boats. There was no way out. So he forced them to, like, you got to freaking fight for your survival, and they ended up winning and doing whatever. But environment dictates that. And there's a lot of things that control our environment. There's TV that control our environment. There's food that control our environment. There's people that can control our environment. There's different frequencies in these cities that we don't see. Just because, again, we don't see it doesn't mean that it's not there affecting us. When somebody gave me a flat screen TV, and I appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When I first plugged the TV in, the flat screen TV, I remember I in my ears I heard like a little buzzing sound. Now I don't hear it anymore, but I know the sound is still there. And when I first did it, it will affect me. You know, we have two rooms in our house. I'm mostly in this room. The other room, the energy feels funny to me. It feels really, really funny to me. So bringing it back to you're most welcome. Thank you. When I was talking about things like this, like the aluminum thing, and a lot of times, you know, people use the word conspiracy theory, and then they say, "Oh, you got the tinfoil hats and things like that." There might be something onto that. You know, when back in the days, I'm talking about, you know, Egypt kings and queens, they had on these gold helmets with different crystals in them, right? Different crystals and things like that. Well, we know that gold is an amplifier. We know that gold amplifies not just metal, but it also amplifies a lot. And you hear your frequencies. So what about if you wanted to call somebody? What about if you wanted to talk to somebody and extend your telepathy, like Professor X in X Men? What is that going to do when you have this crown on your head with different types of crystals? Think about it. Each crystal exhibits a certain thing. People having rubies and all this other kind of stuff. So what I'm saying is that, you know, to bring it all together is that we're right now in this time, we're in a stage of evolution, and we are at that threshold, and that we need to really, really be here for one another, really, really like bad. Like we really need to be here for the ones that are with us on this journey, and hold space for the ones that are not with us. You know, I don't do anything anymore. You know, I'm like everybody else. I'm human. I've experimented. I went to college. I went to 3 colleges. I have fun. I I you know I'm pretty much saying that I got around. You know what I'm saying? I experienced life to its fullest. But right now I don't be drink coffee. You know, definitely no cigarettes, no weed, no alcohol whatsoever. Like completely nothing, man. It's been like that for a long time, right? As clean as possible, but I still need to keep going and keep growing and keep glowing. But I'm only saying that to say is that before I was with my girl, my current girl, I was living with 2 roommates. My roommates, they smoked every day cigarettes, they smoked tons of weed, they would drink alcohol every day. And I would mention some of the stuff that I'm talking about right now and give little clues here and there. And of course, they make fun of me. Oh, Jonathan, blah, 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 you, blah, you, right, whatever. But and their views were very, very different as well too. You know, when the whole Black Lives Matter thing came up, and I don't take parts of none of that, but um, what I'm trying to say is that it made a lot of people have the conversation about race. It brought that to the forefront of our consciousness. And both of my roommates were white at that time, and you know, we all talked about this. We all talked about it, you know, deeply, and we didn't share the same views. You know, me and the other roommate did, and me and the other one didn't. But regardless, you know, it's not like I had malice or hate towards him or anything. And he, you know, pretty much adopted the regular thought the thought pattern of most of the people in the United States, or the majority. You know, that whole the standard American diet. You know, you go to school, you I don't know, you work, you save up for 401k, you know, get married, whatever, and then have children, blah blah blah, and you die, whatever, right? It's some type of order like that. But he basically bought into that whole entire concept, and you know, when I left and it was my last time, I looked him in the eyes and told him that I love him and I appreciate him for who he is, and he's my brother, and that I wished him the best of luck. If you ever need anything from me, I'm here. And that's what I mean by holding open space for him, holding open space for him. You know, and we didn't, even though we didn't see eye to eye, just because he doesn't agree with what I'm the way that I'm living or the things that I do, or I don't agree with him. It doesn't mean anything. It means that we are all connected, whether if we know it or not. We're all connected. And if you look at light, right? If you look at light, this is very, very important to remember. If you look at light, and if you're like watering your garden and it's sunny outside, and you see the rainbow through the water hose, right? That's the whole prism you're bending light. Well, you're not really bending light. What you're doing is you're actually getting a glimpse of the light that you're living in. We're living in an ocean of light, just the way a fish is living in the ocean of water. We're living in an ocean of light, just the way a fish is living in the ocean of water. Think about that. Think about that. And when you bend the hose, you can actually see the light. Now, I say that only to say it's because, in a nutshell, of course, there are more in between the different combinations, but we have the Roy G. Biv, right? The red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The 7 rays of light that we're familiar with. And I'm saying this because each light ray has a different principle and have different benefits and different attributes about them. So, like for instance, red light, right? Red light can do things that ultraviolet light can't do. Ultraviolet light can't go through glass. That's why people put on sunglasses to block the ultraviolet rays. Or infrared, which is below red, can actually go through, your skin and get all the way down to your bones. That's why in certain yoga centers and physical centers they would have ultraviolet heating, which is supposed to be really, really good for like muscle alleviation. Okay, so it's all just frequencies of light, and they all have different properties. Now, if one is down here as a red, right, and one's all the way up here as a violet, together they make up the totality of white light. None is better than the other one. So whether if somebody is vibrating at a frequency of red or orange or yellow or green or whatever have you, they're still part of this frequency as much as anyone else's. So that's why the wise words of Jesus, judge and condemn others, you judge and condemn yourself, because it's not literally just saying, like metaphorically speaking, if you judge and condemn others. No, literally, because of the law of oneness, that if we judge and condemn others, we're really judging and condemning ourselves, no pun intended. So I just want to bring that up because I think it's very, very important to note, because especially because of now, and especially because of us at this threshold of evolution, and especially because of polarities that are in the air right now, that are in the consciousness of a lot of people, and the dualities, and we know what these dualities are: the white and the black, right? The red and the blue, the poor and the rich, and all those other dualities that people fight over, and that really separates people. Whereas in reality, it's very important to notice that in reality, the only separation that really can occur is in the mind, because there really is no separation. They can't be. They can't be. By universal law, they can't be separation. The only thing that separates us is really our thoughts. That's the only thing that separates us. Nothing else can separate us. So how do we start? Do we start with changing our diet? Is diet as much of a necessity? Well, I think it's a saying that in order to get more light, people say enlightenment, right? Enlightenment. In order to get more light, you have to be light. Because if you have too much weight, you're gonna have to wait. That's a pun, right? In order to get more light, you got to be light. In order to get weight, you have to wait. And I believe that I believe that your organs, right, which are musical instruments. What is an organ? A musical instrument. We're living in the universe, right? This sound, which is light, also too. Sound is light. Okay. This is scientifically proven and stuff. It's nothing, unusual about it. It's nothing like. It's just maybe some people are ignorant because they choose to ignore it. So they are ignorant because they ignore it. But all these things are out there, and it's literally at the tip of our fingers. How do we start, man? And what I think is, I think that diet does play a part, but I don't think that is the very thing that is going to determine, right? I think it starts with your heart. I think it starts with your intention to want to love, to want to exhibit love that you have for yourself. to exhibit the love that you have for yourself, that wanting to give that to everybody else, and you kind of have to, because you can't do anything else but it. When I go out, my girl hates when going out with me sometimes, and she laughs, and I might embarrass her because I sit down to everybody, and I talk to people like they're my brothers and sisters. Why? Because they are. Because you are. Everybody's my brothers and sisters. They are, and I can't, and I can't, I can't, I can't turn away from that. I can't fake like it's not true. If I'm picking produce at a produce place and I'm blah blah blah, and I talk to a lady right next to me like, oh, those are some good peaches or whatever. She just talks to me and we're having a good time. I don't need to say, hey, how you doing and blah blah. No, we're all brothers and sisters. When I went to the zoo with my daughter, and this big camel, and I was like, oh, you're beautiful, and the camel comes up to me and starts hugging, like putting his face next to mine and licking me, and everybody back there was looking. Then all of a sudden, people started coming up because I really see them as my brothers and sisters, and I don't see myself as any different, as better or worse than any of them. And I think that the minute we start doing that, right, that's when we actually start to evolve, regardless of how much gold you have. Think about this, right? So this is, again, 1 ounce of gold. This is worth like $2,000. This is 1 ounce of silver. Okay, this is like $30. A lot of people, because they have so much of this, they think that they're better than somebody. And how does that occur? It occurs with a thought process. A lot of people think, well, because that's one thing, the rich, right? The isms. A lot of people think that maybe because their skin, here we go. So a lot of people think that because their skin is darker, now they could take in more sun, and now all of a sudden they're better than somebody. Or maybe somebody thinks because they have less melanin, and then all of a sudden their skin is pale, like this right here, and then all of a sudden they're better than somebody. These things are really they're really childish, and they're really funny if you actually think about it. Like just looking at it from a bird's eye point of view, and if I was to look at the human experiment, if you will, and it would be somewhat funny, man. It would be somewhat funny because people who say that, like, look at this skin, like this is literally like so-called white skin right here, and people who have most of the skin is like this. If you look in their eyes or in their brain or whatever, they have this melanin. And even when they put on sunscreen, a lot of the sunscreen has melanin in it, whether it's synthetic or not. Melanin is actually, what is it, $500 a gram, and there are roughly 26 to 28 grams in an ounce. So for 1 ounce of melanin is worth $14,000 to $15,000, I think. Whereas gold is only worth $2,000 for an ounce. Silver is only worth $30 an ounce right now. But melanin is worth that much money, and everybody has it in them. It doesn't matter who you are. You have it in your brain, you have it in your eyes, you have it all around you, man. Some people just have different amounts of it, but that's not going to determine, the greatness of a person. What determines the greatness of a person is what they exhibit in their heart, and to really go to your heart, and not metaphorically, but literally. This is what they talk about in Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. This is what Joe Dispenza talks about. This is what the yogis talk about when they talk about. This is what the Taoists talk about when they talk about the microcosmic orbit and circulating these energies. So I would say the first step is to really love yourself, because if you can really, really love yourself, boy, can you love everything else. Boy, can you love everything else. And sometimes we forget ourselves. We forget ourselves with the big S, because we have these egos, right? Edging out greatness, edging out God. We have these egos, and we forget that there were actually one. So don't forget. Remind yourself. Remind yourself. And how do we remind ourselves? We do things by creating our environment, because environment's everything. So you look back there on the wall, there's some acupuncture points. This reminds me every day to meditate. It's a tapestry. I have other things hanging up. My house is my sanctuary. I have things like this reminding me. I have crystals. I have posters. My girl, we are constantly, it's about elevation. It's about growing and glowing and being the change that you wish to see. And humans are very insecure. Most people want to be in a higher position than others. A lot of times, I can't read the rest of it. I'm sorry, I'm a slow reader. But it went away, and that's what happens when I doing this on my phone. That's why next time I promise you, I will do it on my computer. And the last time I tried to read, oh, here it is. Okay, hold up. But afraid of lower. Someone thinks it's bad. Lower, wait, no one else. None of us are lower than anyone else. Maybe mentally. Exactly, mentally, and that's the only thing. Oh, okay, cool. I just found out how to put the live chats on. Okay. And that's what's actually true. Is that is that the only separation that could ever occur is in the mind. Yeah, people like to think that, right? People like to think because they have an article of clothes which is made from some synthetic material from the earth, or even from cotton or wool from a sheep or whatever. People think because they have a certain style and a certain type of name, because a whole bunch of people came together and said that this is valuable, whether if it's Ralph Lauren, or whether if it's Gucci, or whether if it's Tommy Hilfiger, or whether if it's Fruit of Fruit of the Loom, Hanes or whatever, because of the brainwashing and the constant marketing, that we believe something. But it just goes to show on the other side of the spectrum on how strong the mind is. People do all things to look good, but they never elevate their mind. And this is what we need to focus on. We need to focus on that mind. We need to, because and this is something that I realize, and this is something that's going to seem interesting, because we know that the heart, right? If the heart is so much stronger than the mind, it's like 100 times stronger than the mind. And they showed us with machines. They showed us that when you actually are living in your heart, that your orophyll extends out to, I'm talking about miles, whereas your mind only 6 feet. But the heart is really, really the barometer. It's like the, I don't know. It's a mechanism inside of us that just exhibits such greatness. And this culture, we're so concerned with the intellect. We're so concerned with the knowing, the numbers, the way we articulate or whatever. When I lived in the woods, and when for 2 months, and then when I tell you guys that I didn't have thoughts in my head, that I could sit there and it was completely silent and blank, and then if I wanted to think, I could think. When I tell you that I didn't know anything, but I knew everything, which, like Socrates said, like, to not know. I'm the wisest man because I know nothing. Okay. What I'm trying to say is that we don't need to know everything, because we are everything. And that's what people need to realize, that this whole consumption, because it's just a mentality that we think that we need to consume. And I do it myself too. I have totally forgotten myself from when I lived in the woods. I'm a completely different person now, and I constantly think about what happened to me that time, and what I experienced. I constantly think about it, man. I really, really do. But like what I was saying, like, we trying to consume as much knowledge as possible to maybe satisfy our ego, to make it think like we know this, or we know that we could talk about this topic or that topic. But like what I was saying earlier, that we are everything. We are the elements, okay? We are the water, the fire, the air, the ether, aka prana. We are all of the minerals. We are the plants. We are the animals. We are the insects. We're everything. We're everything. So if we're everything, we don't need to know nothing, because we're everything. We're replicas of the universe. I mean, literally, think about in nature how air rises above water. It's just natural, right? Water's heavier, air is like that. Think about your lungs. Lungs are up here through the air, and think about your bladder. Your bladder is below it. We're all replicas of the universe. I can break this down in so many ways, to even the technology, to your eyes being cameras, and your digestive system being like plumbing, and your nervous system being like wires, the negative and the positive. I mean, I can break it down all the way, but just on a more base level, like, we're all of these things. That's why I'm saying that we can fly. That's why I'm saying that, and even yogis have shown you this. You can levitate. It's nothing, abnormal about it. It's just that right now it's not taught because of our environments. But I believe that that's where we are, and above that, beyond that, that we're gonna go further and further and further through that. There, there's a saying that many will be called, but only few will be chosen. And that's why I say that the first thing is to work with your heart and to love yourself. Because if you do that, if you work with your heart and if you start to really, really, truly love yourself, everything else will open up to you. Everything will open up to you. It has to. It has to. I remember when I was in college and I read this book. I used to always buy books, and it's a small like quote book. And it said, if you want to understand man, study yourself. If you want to understand man, study yourself. Because once we study us, we know everything else because we are everything. It's as simple as that. So that's why the first thing starts with loving yourself, because then we can love everything else. We can love plants, we can love animals, we can love other human beings. We won't want to hurt the earth. We won't want to hurt another animal. We won't want to see another animal bleed and then rob its meat and eat its meat. Or we won't want to see another animal, be sad with me, take its children and eat its children. We wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want that because that would literally hurt us because it is part of us. So once we develop these energy centers inside of us, aka chakras, right, and really focusing on the heart chakra and breathing into it, I say to start. Step two would be to start a system that can help out. And for me, a big one was yoga. I really really involved in yoga, even though I say recently I've been lazy. I'm still involved in this. It's my medicine. My medicine is my medication is meditation. And that's what yoga is. It's a moving meditation. Um, and then also like with Tai Chi, not Tai Chi, Qigong. Qigong is another big one for me. So yoga's first for me, and then Qigong is second. But just doing those things, right? And if we live in an ocean of light, so when we do things like this, we're starting to feel this light around us, and we're starting to really understand it, and then we can actually really use it to heal, for protection, for substance, for many 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 things. It's not anything um really weird about it. It's not anything that's like, oh wow, like that's crazy. Only to people who choose to believe the narrative that was put out. So I don't know, profusely, you know, such as like through school systems and through a lot of the media and whatever. And I know it's hard, but that's why I say that love is the strongest force. Love can conquer all. And again, I'm not religious, but I do believe that a man walked this earth, whether we agreed that his name was Jesus or whether we agreed that his name was Joshua or whatever. I do believe that many masters like him have walked this earth. And I even told you guys about Bruno Groni, who was in the 1950s, who have even done things that he has done. And many other people have as well too, and they're still doing it right now. And of course, these things won't be televised in the news. The news is not going to say, "Oh, look at this, oh, look at that." No, this will never ever be televised in the news, because news is an instrument to put out a frequency of fear, not a frequency of love. That's the sun. That's the sun's job. The sun's job is to put out a frequency of love. But I was saying that only to say is that that's why I really really think that um these masters come here and to show us the way. Like when I start to develop more and more and more, eventually I will be doing this stuff as well too. I know it will. I'm having somebody teach me right now, and what would I do? After once you do that, what can you do? You just want to give back and you want to teach and you want to help. Um, and that's the best that we can do. That's the best that we can do, because when we get to the state of blaming, when you blame, you go into pain. That's exactly what happens. When you blame, you go into pain. Once you start playing that game of polarity, of duality, you experience one, you're gonna have to experience the other. You're gonna have to, man. You're gonna have to, just by the law of duality. So we need to be very, very careful, and we need to be mindful about what we came here to accomplish. Not everybody came here to accomplish enlightenment, or ascending, or evolution. Some people might have just came here just to maybe learn how to face fears, maybe to learn how to die gracefully. Maybe they came here to carry out some karma from whatever other lives. Never compare yourself to somebody, because not everybody is on the same path. A lot of people are on different paths, and there really is no such a thing as death. And we might see a lot of people die, and these natural disasters, aka natural disasters, but they're not really natural. We're causing them, believe it or not. Um, and what I mean by that is, I mean the collective consciousness is causing them. Because if we came together as one consciousness, we could easily change things around. I know we can. I know without a doubt. And yeah, I used to be afraid, man. I used to be afraid. I used to be afraid to speak this truth. But through so many trials and tribulations, and so many life experiences, this is the only thing worth living for. So we could play the games, but I'm gonna tell you this: the past 2 months, even though I've been the laziest I've ever been, I have not watched not 1 ounce of news. And to me, even though the energies, I'm feeling something from the universe, or whatever, it's been really, really cool for me. It's been really cool for the most part, and my mind is really, really free. And I realize how much the news can actually affect somebody, even if you look at a quick 5 minutes of it. Oh, it's really effective on what it does. So I would advise you to boycott the news and don't watch it, and to submerge your mind with something else, or don't be afraid of what you talk about. When you talk about slave lives, keep it up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, man, I used to have a lot of fear, man, a lot. But we go through experiences, and part of like living in the woods, got me ready for San Francisco. When I came here in Cali, I was homeless, $20 in my pocket, that was it. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And it's like the next thing makes you stronger and stronger and stronger. And like me being an entrepreneur now, I'm not dependent on a 9 to 5. Like that was one of the scariest things in my life as well too, just being dependent on myself. You know what I mean? And it's interesting, but we got this, man. We got this as humanity. I know we do. I know we do. I know we do. And I know that we are going somewhere. And not everybody's gonna come. Not everybody's gonna come. And that's okay that everybody's not coming. That's okay, because we know that they will come, whether if it's in a different form or not. Maybe they would be born into babies, or maybe they would be on a different planet, somewhere else. But yeah, everybody has their freedom of choice, and their freedom of will to do as they will, to do as they choose. And that's the beautiful thing about this universe. And that's the beautiful thing about this planet. And yeah, I want to say get ready for evolution, because evolution is here and now. Here and now. And every day we have a choice. Every inhale and exhale we have a choice. And we're going to evolve. And we are evolving. And stay focused on what you want and not what you don't want. And I know we got this. And I appreciate you tuning in with me. I really, really do. And I hope that everyone who is watching has a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year, and a great life. My name is Jonathan. Thanks for tuning in to Seven Circles. If you haven't done so, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And I would definitely appreciate it if you could help me to grow this channel by, I don't know, passing it around or something of that nature. And I really wish you well, my brothers and my sisters who are watching. And may we continue to inspire one another and reach higher and higher and higher and do what we came here to do. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, vibes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.